My name is Tori Fairfax, and I'm 34 years old. 3 weeks ago, my parents sold our family home for $1.8 million, the same house I'd contributed $200,000 to 12 years earlier, and handed every single dollar to my sister. When I asked about my share, my mother's response was simple: be happy for your sister's new start. $200,000. My entire inheritance from my grandmother. Gone. Just like that. But here's what they didn't count on. I kept the paperwork. A signed agreement from 2012, promising me 40% of the house's value whenever it sold. They thought it was just family paperwork. Who sues family, right? 1 hour after I made a single phone call, the real estate agent contacted me. The sale is frozen. Your parents are not handling it well. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely want to hear how this ends. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. I'd love to know. To understand why I had that document and why my parents forgot I had it, I need to take you back to the summer of 2012, when I was 22 years old and still believed that family would never betray each other. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I was always the reliable one. My sister Meredith is 4 years older than me. She was the one who struggled in school, bounced between majors in college, and dropped out twice before finally getting a communications degree she never used. She married young, 24, to a guy named Kevin who worked in car sales. 2 kids followed. And somewhere along the way, Meredith became the one who needed help. Me? I graduated summa cum laude with an accounting degree, got hired at Morrison & Caldwell straight out of school. Never asked my parents for a dime after college. And that apparently made me the family ATM. The pattern was predictable. Meredith would have a crisis, car trouble, unexpected bill, marriage counseling fees, and my parents would call me. Tori, can you help your sister just this once? It was never just once. In 2018, I lent Meredith $15,000 to save her marriage. Couples therapy, she said. A romantic getaway to reconnect. I never saw a penny of it back. When I mentioned it at Thanksgiving that year, my mother pulled me aside. Don't be petty, Tori. Your sister is struggling. You have a good job. I did the math once. Over 10 years, I'd given my family, mostly Meredith, over $40,000 in loans that were never repaid, birthday gifts that were really bill payments, Christmas checks that went straight to credit card debt, and none of that included the big one, the $200,000. My mother always said the same thing whenever I hesitated. You're the one with the ability, your sister doesn't have that. It took me 30 years to realize that wasn't a compliment. It was a justification for draining me dry. But the real story starts with my grandmother and the money she left behind. My grandmother, Eleanor Mitchell, died in March 2012. She was 87, sharp as a tack until the end, and she loved me fiercely. I was the granddaughter who visited. Every Sunday afternoon during college, I'd drive 40 minutes to her assisted living facility in Lake Oswego. We'd play Scrabble, watch old movies, and talk about everything: her childhood during the Depression, her marriage, the bakery she'd run for 30 years before retiring. Meredith visited maybe twice a year. Christmas and Grandma Eleanor's birthday, sometimes not even that. So when Grandma Eleanor's will was read, nobody should have been surprised by what it said. But my mother acted like she'd been slapped. To my granddaughter, Tori Ann Fairfax, I leave the sum of $200,000 so that she may have a solid financial foundation for her future. That was it. Clear, specific, intentional. Meredith got Grandma's china set. My mother got the antique jewelry. My father got the grandfather clock that had been in the family for generations. But the money, the actual, liquid, life-changing money, went to me. My mother was furious. Not at Grandma Eleanor, of course. At me. You must have manipulated her, she said at the funeral reception, her voice low and venomous. She wasn't in her right mind. She always loved Meredith more. That wasn't true. Grandma Eleanor loved the granddaughter who showed up. It wasn't complicated. I kept a copy of that will. Still have it, actually, in the same safety deposit box where I keep all my important documents. It clearly states Grandma's intention: money for my foundation. 2 months after I received that inheritance, my mother called with a wonderful opportunity. I should have known right then that something was wrong. August 2012. I was 22, fresh out of college, and sitting in my parents' living room while my mother explained how I could invest in the family's future. The pitch was simple. The family home, which my parents had bought in 1995, still had about $120,000 left on the mortgage. The house was worth around $500,000 at the time. If I contributed $200,000 toward paying off the mortgage and making some renovations, I would own 40% of the home's value when it eventually sold. Think of it as an investment, my father said. Real estate always appreciates. You'll make money. And you'll be helping your family, my mother added. It's what Grandma Eleanor would have wanted. I hesitated. $200,000 was everything I had, my entire safety net. My mother's eyes hardened. Don't you trust us, Tori? We're your parents. I called my best friend Claire that night. We'd been close since freshman year at Portland State, and she was the only person outside my family who knew about the inheritance. At least get something in writing, Claire said. Anything. A napkin, something. So I asked. And my parents laughed. Fine, my mother said, rolling her eyes. If you want to be professional about it. My father typed up a simple agreement on his home computer. 1 page. It stated that I, Tori Fairfax, was contributing $200,000 to the family home, representing 40% of its value, to be repaid upon sale or transfer of the property. Both my parents signed it. Dated August 15, 2012. I kept the original in my safety deposit box at Wells Fargo. It cost me $75 a year for that box. Best $75 I ever spent. 12 years later, that piece of paper would change everything. The years pass the way they do when you're busy building a life you think is stable. I worked my way up at Morrison & Caldwell, junior accountant to staff accountant to senior financial analyst. I got my CPA license, moved into a decent apartment in the Pearl District, started a retirement fund, did everything right. Meredith's life took a different path. She and Kevin had 2 kids, Emma in 2016, Jacob in 2019. She never went back to work. The kids need me at home, she'd say. Kevin's car sales income covered the basics, barely, and through it all, my parents kept calling. The roof needed repairs. Could I chip in $8,000? The HVAC system was dying, another $12,000. Property taxes were tight one year. $5,000 would really help. Consider it additional investment in your share, my mother would say. I kept rough track. Over 12 years, I put another $35,000 or so into that house. No documentation this time, just bank transfers with memo lines like roof repair and family help. I was 34 years old, owned nothing but my car and my retirement accounts, and had given my family nearly $250,000. Then, in January 2024, Meredith's marriage finally collapsed. Kevin left her for a woman he'd met at the dealership. He kept the house. They'd bought it under his name alone. Meredith walked away with her clothes, the kids, and nothing else. She moved back in with my parents. And suddenly, all the family conversations centered on one thing. How do we help Meredith start over? In September 2024, my mother called with news that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. We're selling the house, she announced, and we've found a buyer. October 15th, 2024. A Tuesday. I remember because I was at my desk reviewing quarterly statements when my mother's name flashed on my phone screen. Wonderful news, she said, her voice practically singing. We sold the house. $1.8 million. Can you believe it? The Portland market is insane right now. I did the math instantly. Accounting reflex. 40% of $1.8 million was $720,000. My original investment plus 12 years of appreciation. Finally. That's great, Mom. So when do we... We've decided to give it all to Meredith. I stopped breathing. She needs it more than anyone, my mother continued, oblivious. Poor thing lost everything in the divorce. She needs a down payment for a new house, money to get back on her feet. This will give her a fresh start. Mom, my voice was barely a whisper. What about my share? The $200,000 I put in? Silence. Then, in a tone I'd never heard before, cold, dismissive, final. That was your contribution to the family, Tori. Your investment in us. You've done well for yourself. You have a career, an apartment. Meredith has nothing. But we had an agreement. Dad typed it up. You both signed. That was just family paperwork. She actually laughed. Nobody's going to hold you to that. We're family, not business partners. I gripped my phone so hard my hand ached. Be happy for your sister, my mother said. She's getting a second chance at life. That's what matters. She hung up before I could respond. I sat at my desk for 10 minutes without moving. My computer screen went to sleep. The office buzzed around me. And something inside me, something that had bent and flexed and accommodated for 34 years, finally snapped. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed replaying every moment. Every loan that was never repaid. Every holiday where Meredith's struggles took center stage. Every time I'd swallowed my needs because Tori can handle it. At 6 a.m., I gave up on sleep and called Claire. What time is it? She groaned. 6. I need to talk. 20 minutes later, she was fully awake and fully furious on my behalf. Tori, please tell me you kept that agreement. I had. Of course I had. I was an accountant. I kept everything. Then you need a lawyer, Claire said. Today, not tomorrow. Today. When's the closing? I checked the email my mother had forwarded weeks ago, back when she was still pretending I'd be included in the celebration. The closing was scheduled for October 20th, 5 days away. I don't know if I can do this, I whispered. They're my family. Tori, Claire's voice was firm. What family takes $200,000 from their daughter and then acts like it never happened? What family looks at your grandmother's inheritance, money she specifically left for you, and decides someone else deserves it more? I didn't have an answer. If a stranger did this to you, Claire continued, you'd call the police. Why should your family get a pass? She was right. I knew she was right. I'd known it for years, probably. I just hadn't wanted to face it. What if I lose them? I asked. What if this destroys everything? What do you have right now? Claire shot back. A family that treats you like an ATM isn't a family. It's a bank with guilt trips. That afternoon, I made an appointment with a real estate attorney named Nathan Webb. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. Nathan Webb's office was on the 14th floor of a downtown Portland high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River. He was in his mid-40s, silver at the temples, with the kind of calm presence that comes from decades of seeing people at their worst. I handed him 3 documents: the 2012 agreement with my parents' signatures, the bank statement showing my $200,000 wire transfer, and a copy of my grandmother's will. He read through everything in silence. Twice. Ms. Fairfax, he finally said, setting down the papers. Under Oregon law, this agreement is binding. I exhaled. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. The document is signed by both parties, he continued. It specifies the amount contributed, the percentage of ownership, and the conditions for repayment. It's not fancy, but it's enforceable. My mother said it was just family paperwork, I said. That no one would hold me to it. Nathan almost smiled. People say a lot of things when they're trying to avoid paying $720,000. He explained my options. I could send a formal letter demanding my share, but that would give my parents time to lawyer up, potentially contest the agreement, drag things out for months or years. Or I could wait until the closing, appear with legal representation, and assert my claim directly. The sale couldn't proceed if there was a legitimate ownership dispute. Which would you recommend? I asked. The closing is in 3 days, Nathan said. If you want certainty, you show up with documentation they can't refute, in front of witnesses who have a legal obligation to address ownership disputes before completing any transaction. I thought of my mother's voice on the phone. Be happy for your sister. I'll be there, I said. What do I need to do? Nathan Webb moved fast. By the end of our meeting on October 17th, he had already drafted a letter to Lakewood Realty, the company handling my parents' sale, notifying them of a potential ownership dispute affecting the property. We won't identify you by name yet, he explained. Just that a claim exists. It puts them on legal notice. They'll be required to disclose this to all parties before closing. I imagined my parents receiving that news, the confusion, the dawning realization. What happens when they find out it's me? They'll try to contact you, probably through your mother. Guilt, manipulation, whatever's worked before. Nathan's eyes were steady. The question is whether you'll hold firm. I thought about that. 34 years of bending, of being the responsible one, of watching my grandmother's gift, her explicit, documented wish for my security, being handed to someone else because my sister needed it more. I'll hold firm, I said. Nathan nodded. Good. I'll attend the closing with you on the 20th. We'll bring notarized copies of everything. The original agreement, the wire transfer records, even your grandmother's will showing her intent. He paused, then added something that made my stomach drop. I should mention, I reviewed the listing documents your parents filed. They signed a seller's disclosure stating there were no ownership claims or disputes on the property. Meaning? Meaning they either forgot about your agreement entirely or they deliberately omitted it. His expression was neutral, professional. Either way, they signed a legally binding document that wasn't accurate. That's not good for them. The closing was in 3 days. My family had no idea I was coming, no idea I had the agreement, no idea their $1.8 million sale was about to come to a grinding halt. And honestly, I was terrified. October 17th, 5:47 p.m. My phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but I needed to know what they knew. Tori! Her voice was bright, artificially so. I'm so glad I caught you. We're having a little celebration after the closing, a housewarming party for Meredith at her new place. Well, once she finds one. You'll come, won't you? A party. They were planning a party. When is it? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. The 21st, right after all the paperwork's done. The whole family will be there. Aunt Linda, Uncle Robert, everyone. We're so excited for Meredith's fresh start. I closed my eyes. I'll try to make it. Wonderful. Oh, and Meredith wants to thank you personally. She knows you've always been there for her. Thanking me for letting her take my inheritance, I thought. How generous. After we hung up, I sat alone in my apartment and let the rage wash over me. It wasn't hot anger, it was something colder, more clarifying. The kind of anger that comes when you finally see a situation for exactly what it is. That night, I received a text from Meredith. Thanks for understanding. I know this is a lot, but you've always been the strong one. I don't know what I'd do without my little sister supporting me. Love you. Did she know about my $200,000? Did she know she was celebrating with my inheritance? I would find out soon enough. 3 days until closing. My parents thought this was finished. They thought I'd accepted my role. The dutiful daughter, the family ATM, the one who always bent. They had no idea that for the first time in my life I wasn't bending. I was breaking free. October 18th, 2 days before closing. I made an excuse to visit my parents' house, said I wanted to pick up some old photo albums before the new owners moved in. My mother was at a hair appointment. My father was golfing. Only Meredith was there, watching the kids in the backyard. I was in my old bedroom, collecting photos, when I heard Meredith's voice through the thin walls. She was on the phone, laughing. "No, Tori won't make trouble. She's too nice for that. You know how she is." I froze. Mom said she put in some money years ago, but that was forever ago, ancient history. And honestly, I need this more. I have the kids. What does Tori have to spend money on? Her apartment? Her boring accounting job? My chest tightened. The $1.8 million won't even go that far once I buy a house and pay off some debt. Probably only have like $800K left after everything. But it's a start, right? She paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. Tori will understand. She always understands. That's her thing. She's the understanding one. I stood perfectly still, barely breathing. Mom says she contributed something to the house back in the day, but whatever. That was a gift. Family helps family, and I need the help more than she does. She knew. She knew about my contribution, and she'd decided it didn't matter. Because I had a job and an apartment, and she had kids and problems. Because I was the understanding one. I left without the photo albums. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't trust what I might say. 2 days until closing, and now I knew the truth. My sister was complicit. This wasn't just my parents' decision, it was hers too. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. At 1 a.m., I called Claire. She picked up on the second ring. She'd been waiting for updates. She knew, I said, my voice cracking. Meredith knew about the money. She just decided I didn't deserve it. Oh, Tori. She called it a gift. Said family helps family. I laughed bitterly. As if I haven't been helping this family my entire adult life. Claire was quiet for a moment. Then, "Are you having second thoughts?" I wanted to say no, but the truth was more complicated. Meredith has 2 kids, I whispered. Emma's 8. Jacob's 5. They didn't ask for any of this. What if I'm hurting them? Stop, Claire's voice was firm. You're not taking anything from those kids. You're taking what's legally yours, what your grandmother explicitly left for you. If Meredith can't afford to raise her kids without your stolen inheritance, that's her problem to solve, not yours. But everyone will hate me. My parents, Meredith, the aunts and uncles. I'll be the villain. Then let them hate you with their wrong opinions while you have your $720,000 and your self-respect. Claire sighed. Tori, you've spent your whole life being the good daughter. Where has it gotten you? I didn't answer because we both knew. If you don't stand up for yourself now, Claire continued, who will? Your mom? She's the one stealing from you. Your dad? He just does whatever she says. Meredith? She's literally celebrating with your money. She was right. I knew she was right. I hung up and lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. October 20th, 10 a.m., Lakewood Realty's downtown office. I would be there, with my lawyer, and the document they'd forgotten I had. Okay, I need to pause here for a second and ask you something directly. If you were me, standing at this crossroads, knowing your family would probably never forgive you, what would you do? Would you fight for what's yours, even if it meant losing them? Or would you let it go, to keep the peace? Comment your answer. A, if you'd fight. B, if you'd let it go. And if you're invested in how this ends, hit subscribe, because the closing is coming. Now, back to the story. October 19th, 1 day before closing. I met Nathan Webb at his office for a final strategy session. The conference table was covered with documents, my original agreement, notarized copies, bank statements, even a timeline I'd written out showing every additional contribution I'd made over 12 years. Here's how tomorrow will go, Nathan said, sliding a legal pad toward me. The closing is scheduled for 10 a.m. at Lakewood Realty's office downtown. Your parents, your sister, the buyers, their lawyer, an escrow officer from the title company, everyone will be in the room. And they don't know I'm coming? The real estate company knows there's an ownership dispute. They're legally required to inform all parties before closing. but I asked them not to reveal who filed the claim. Yet. I tried to imagine my mother's face when she found out. What happens when we walk in? I'll introduce myself as your legal representative. We'll present the 2012 agreement and supporting documentation. At that point, the escrow officer cannot proceed with the transaction until the dispute is resolved. And then? Nathan's expression was unreadable. Then your parents will have a choice. Acknowledge your claim and adjust the distribution accordingly, or face a potential lawsuit, which they will lose, and which will cost them significantly more in the long run. I nodded slowly. They'll try to manipulate me, in front of everyone. Probably. That's why I'll do most of the talking. Your job is to stay calm, say as little as possible, and let the documents speak for themselves. That night, I laid out my clothes. A professional navy blazer, white blouse, black slacks. I would walk into that room looking exactly like what I was, a financial professional who knew her rights. Tomorrow would change everything. October 20th, 2024. 9:45 a.m. Lakewood Realty occupied the ground floor of a renovated building in downtown Portland. Floor-to-ceiling windows, exposed brick. The kind of space that screamed, successful transactions happen here. I arrived 15 minutes early with Nathan. The receptionist led us to a glass-walled conference room where we could watch the other parties arrive. My parents came first. My mother wore a cream-colored blouse and pearls, her important meeting outfit. My father looked uncomfortable in a sport coat, constantly tugging at the collar. They didn't notice me in the conference room. They were too busy laughing with Jennifer Walsh, the real estate agent. Meredith arrived next, looking more put together than I'd seen her in months. Full makeup, hair done, wearing a wrap dress and heels. She was already talking about paint colors for her new kitchen. Then the buyers, David and Linda Morrison, a couple in their 60s looking to downsize. Their lawyer, a gray-haired woman with a leather briefcase. Finally, the escrow officer from the title company, a young man clutching a folder thick with documents. Everyone took their seats. Meredith sat between our parents, practically glowing. She glanced around the room and finally noticed me. Tori! She looked confused. What are you doing here? My mother's head snapped toward me. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty? Fear? I came to support the family, I said evenly. This is my attorney, Nathan Webb. Nathan nodded politely but said nothing. My father's brow furrowed. Attorney? What do you need an attorney for? Jennifer Walsh cleared her throat, shuffling papers nervously. Well, before we begin, there's something we need to address. The room went very still. My mother's smile didn't waver, but her eyes had gone cold. Jennifer Walsh looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. We received notification 2 days ago of a potential ownership dispute involving this property, she said, her eyes carefully avoiding my mother. We're legally obligated to address any such claims before we can proceed with the transaction. My mother laughed, a brittle, theatrical sound. Ownership dispute? That's absurd. This house belongs to Richard and me. It's been in our names for 30 years. Mom, my voice was steady. You know exactly what this is about. David Morrison, the buyer, shifted uncomfortably. What kind of dispute are we talking about here? Jennifer opened her mouth, but Nathan spoke first. I'd like to clarify the situation. He stood, commanding the room's attention. My client, Tori Fairfax, contributed $200,000 to this property in August 2012. In exchange, she was promised 40% of the home's value upon any future sale. That's ridiculous, my mother snapped. There is. Nathan placed a document on the table. A written agreement, signed by both Richard and Diane Fairfax on August 15, 2012. I have the original and notarized copies for everyone present. He slid copies down the table. I watched my father pick one up, his face draining of color. He remembered. Of course he remembered. He'd typed it himself. My mother's copy sat untouched in front of her. Along with the agreement, Nathan continued, we have bank records confirming a $200,000 wire transfer from Ms. Fairfax's personal account to Mr. and Mrs. Fairfax on August 18, 2012. The timing and amount match the agreement exactly. Linda Morrison turned to her husband. David, I don't think we should. No one's signing anything until this is resolved, Jennifer said quickly. We can't close with an unresolved ownership claim. My mother finally looked at me. The coldness in her eyes had turned to something darker. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Nathan remained standing, his voice calm and professional. The agreement is clear. Ms. Fairfax is entitled to 40% of the sale price. That's $720,000. Meredith's mouth fell open. $720,000? You're suing us? I'm not suing anyone. I met her eyes. I'm asking for what I was promised, what I'm legally owed. This is insane. My mother's composure cracked. That was family money. You were helping with the mortgage. I was making an investment, I corrected, and I have the document proving it, with your signature, and Dad's. My father hadn't said a word. He was staring at the agreement, his face ashen. Diane, I remember this. I typed it myself. Richard, don't. She was right to ask for it in writing, he continued almost to himself. I thought it was silly at the time, but she was right. Jennifer Walsh spoke up, her tone carefully neutral. Mr. and Mrs. Fairfax, this is the first time I've seen this document. It wasn't disclosed in your seller's paperwork. Because it doesn't matter, my mother's voice rose. It was just something we did for Tori's peace of mind. Nobody takes these family things seriously. Nathan's eyebrows lifted slightly. Oregon courts do, Mrs. Fairfax. This document meets all legal requirements for an enforceable contract. Your daughter has a legitimate ownership claim. David Morrison pushed back from the table. Jennifer, we're not comfortable proceeding until this is sorted out. This is exactly the kind of thing we were worried about. I understand completely, Jennifer said. We'll need to pause the closing until the dispute is resolved. Pause, not cancel, but close enough. I watched my mother's face cycle through emotions, shock, fury, disbelief, and underneath it all, something I'd never seen before, fear. My mother wasn't finished. You're doing this for money? She leaned across the table, her voice cracking. Your own family, the people who raised you, sacrificed everything for you, and you're treating us like strangers? You treated my $200,000 like it didn't exist, I replied. You decided to give everything to Meredith without even telling me the house was for sale. Because you don't need it. Look at you. You have a career, an apartment, a life. Meredith has nothing. Meredith has two parents who have catered to her every need for 38 years. My voice was steady even though my heart was pounding. I have a document proving I'm owed $720,000. Those are different kinds of having. Meredith burst into tears. How can you do this to me? To my kids? I just got divorced, Tori. I have nothing. You have $1.8 million sitting on this table, Nathan interjected calmly. Minus my client's legitimate share, you still have $1,080,000. That's not nothing by any reasonable standard. My mother whirled on Nathan. This is none of your business. This is a family matter. It became my business when your daughter retained me to protect her legal interests. Nathan's tone never wavered. Interests you've clearly attempted to circumvent. David Morrison stood up. We're not signing today. Jennifer, call us when this is resolved. He and his wife left without another word. Their lawyer followed, pausing at the door. You should have disclosed this, Mr. and Mrs. Fairfax. You may have exposure beyond just this sale. My mother turned to me, her eyes wet with tears that might have been real or might have been performance. You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy, I said quietly, but I'm also not being robbed anymore. The conference room was emptying. The buyers were gone. The escrow officer was packing up his untouched documents. But my family remained, circling me like I'd committed a crime. Meredith grabbed my arm. Do you know what you've done? My kids need this money. Your niece and nephew. Don't you care about them at all? I pulled my arm free. Emma and Jacob deserve a stable future, but it shouldn't be built on money stolen from their aunt. Stolen? Meredith's voice went shrill. Mom said you offered to help with the house. She said you wanted to contribute. I contributed $200,000 with the promise of getting 40% back when you sold. That's not charity, Meredith. That's an investment. And I have the paperwork to prove it. You were 22. You probably misunderstood. I was a college graduate with an accounting degree. I understood exactly what I was signing, and so did Mom and Dad. My father finally spoke. Tori, please, can't we work something out? Privately? Without lawyers and strangers involved? I looked at him. This man who'd spent my entire life deferring to my mother, who'd signed the agreement and then pretended it didn't exist. You had 12 years to work something out, I said. You had 12 years to tell me you were planning to sell. 12 years to say, Tori, let's talk about your share. You didn't. You tried to give my money to Meredith and hope I was too good to make trouble. I gathered my purse and stood. I'm willing to negotiate, I said. I want my $720,000 and then I'm out of this. But I will not be guilted into giving up what's mine. Not anymore. Nathan handed my mother his card on the way out. She didn't take it. It fluttered to the table like a white flag she refused to accept. 1 hour after I left the closing, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Lakewood Realty. Ms. Fairfax? This is Jennifer Walsh. Yes. I wanted to update you on the situation. She sounded exhausted. The sale is officially frozen until the ownership dispute is resolved. The buyers are understandably hesitant to proceed. I understand. Your parents are not handling it well. Your mother is insisting this is all a misunderstanding. Your father is asking if there's any way to expedite a resolution. There is, I said. They can acknowledge my 40% claim and adjust the payout accordingly. Jennifer paused. I've been doing this job for 15 years, Ms. Fairfax. I've seen a lot of family conflicts over real estate. But I have to say, I've never seen anyone forget to disclose a $200,000 contribution from a family member. Do you think they forgot? Another pause. I think they hoped no one would ever ask. I thought about that. 12 years of hoping I'd never assert my rights. 12 years of betting on my silence, my compliance, my pathological need to keep the peace. Ms. Walsh, can I ask you something? Of course. In your professional opinion, not legally, just personally, would you have signed that seller's disclosure stating there were no ownership claims? She was quiet for a long moment. No, she finally said. I would not have, because that's not just an oversight, Miss Fairfax. That's a choice. My parents had chosen to erase me, to pretend my contribution didn't exist, to sign legal documents saying no one else had any claim to their property. They'd made their choice. Now I was making mine. I'll have my attorney contact you tomorrow to discuss next steps, I said. Thank you for calling. The guilt offensive started that evening. My mother called at 6:47 p.m. Her voice had transformed from the cold fury of the conference room to something softer, wounded, maternal, heartbroken. Tori, she sighed my name. I can't believe it's come to this. Neither can I. I raised you better than this. I taught you that family comes first, that we support each other. Her voice cracked artfully. And now you're treating us like criminals. I'm treating you like people who signed a contract and then pretended it didn't exist. That contract was a formality. We never meant... Then why did you sign it? Silence. You had a choice, Mom. When you decided to sell, you could have called me. You could have said, Tori, remember that agreement? Let's talk about how to honor it. Instead, you tried to give everything to Meredith and hope I wouldn't notice. Your sister needs it more. That's not for you to decide. Not with my money. Her tone shifted again, harder now, threatening. If you go through with this, I'll tell everyone. The whole family will know what kind of daughter you really are. A greedy, selfish. Tell them. I cut her off. And I'll show them the document, with your signature, dated 2012. I'll explain that you took $200,000 from your own daughter and then tried to give it to your other daughter because she needed it more. For the first time in my life, my mother had no response. I'm not the villain in this story, Mom. I'm the one with receipts. Your father's heart, she said finally. He has a condition. The stress could. Dad's health is Dad's responsibility. Mine is protecting myself from being robbed. I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking, but I didn't call back. Okay, I know that was intense. I'm still processing it myself, honestly. This is the part where I need your support the most. If you're feeling this with me, if you've ever had a family try to guilt you into giving up something that was rightfully yours, hit that like button. That's how I know you're still here with me. And if you've got a story like this, drop it in the comments. You're not alone. Now, back to what happened next. I didn't expect Meredith to call that night. It was almost 10 p.m. when her name appeared on my screen. I hesitated, then answered. Tori? Her voice was different, tired, drained of the theatrical tears from earlier. Can we talk? Just us? We're talking. Mom's losing it. She's been on the phone with Aunt Linda for an hour, spinning some story about how you ambushed us. Meredith laughed bitterly. I don't think Linda's buying it. I didn't say anything. I need to ask you something, Meredith continued. And I need you to be honest. Okay. Did you really put in $200,000, like your own money, back in 2012? I felt something tighten in my chest. You know I did. You said so yourself on the phone yesterday at the house. Silence. Then, you heard that? I heard enough. Tori, She trailed off. Mom told me you helped a little back then. She never said how much. I swear I didn't know it was $200,000. Not until today. I wanted to believe her, but the words I'd heard through that wall, Tori will understand, she always understands, kept echoing. You knew there was something, I said. You just didn't ask how much because you didn't want to know. The silence stretched between us. Maybe you're right, Meredith finally admitted. Maybe I didn't want to know. Because if I knew, I'd have to think about it. And it was easier not to. That's not my problem to solve, Meredith. I know. Her voice broke. I know I've been the problem child. The one everyone had to rescue. I know you've resented me for years. I didn't resent you. I resented being invisible while you got everything. That's fair, she whispered. That's really fair. October 22nd, 2 days after the failed closing, Nathan Webb called with an update. The buyers, David and Linda Morrison, had officially issued an ultimatum. Resolve the ownership dispute within 7 days, or they would withdraw their offer and demand their $90,000 earnest money deposit back. If they withdraw, Nathan explained, your parents face 2 problems. First, they lose a guaranteed buyer in a market that's already cooling. Second, they may have legal exposure for misrepresentation on the seller's disclosure. Misrepresentation? They signed a document stating there were no ownership claims on the property. That wasn't accurate. The Morrisons' lawyer has already sent a letter suggesting they might pursue damages. I processed this. My parents had put themselves in a corner, and I hadn't even done anything except show up with the truth. What do you think they'll do? I asked. I think they'll realize they have no leverage. Every day this drags out costs them money, legal fees, carrying costs on the house, potential lawsuit from the buyers. Meanwhile, you can wait indefinitely. The agreement doesn't expire. That afternoon, I learned my mother had hired her own lawyer, a family attorney named Douglas Peters, who, according to Nathan, had immediately advised her that fighting my claim would be expensive, lengthy, and almost certainly unsuccessful. His exact words, apparently, were, Mrs. Fairfax, your daughter has documentation that any judge in Oregon will recognize as valid. My professional advice is to negotiate. I almost laughed. After 34 years of my mother controlling every narrative, she'd finally encountered a situation where her version of events didn't matter. The facts were the facts, the signatures were the signatures, and she was running out of time. My mother's tell everyone threat backfired spectacularly. By October 23rd, she had called every relative she could reach: Aunt Linda, Uncle Robert, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, spinning a story about her ungrateful daughter blocking a family home sale over ancient history. What she didn't count on was me sending a group email that same day. Subject: clarification on the Fairfax property dispute. I kept it simple. Attach the 2012 agreement with both signatures. The bank records showing my $200,000 transfer. A brief explanation. I contributed this money with a documented promise of 40% ownership. When the house sold, my share was going to be given to my sister. I'm asking for what I was promised. The responses came fast. Aunt Linda, my mother's own sister, called me that evening. "Tori, honey, I believe you." Her voice was warm, steady. "Your mother, she did something similar when we settled your grandmother's estate, tried to claim things that weren't hers. I know what she's capable of." "She did?" "She wanted Mama's jewelry and the money you got. Said it was unfair that you inherited more than Meredith. I had to threaten to get lawyers involved before she backed down." I hadn't known that. For years, I thought I was the only one who saw my mother clearly. Uncle Robert called next, my father's brother. "Your dad called me, asking me to talk sense into you." I told him I'd seen the documents, and the only person needing sense talked into them was him. The family narrative was shifting. My mother had counted on everyone believing her story without evidence. She hadn't anticipated that I would provide receipts, literally. "You're not alone in this," Aunt Linda told me before hanging up. "You never were. We just didn't know how to help." October 24th. My father called. It was the first time he'd reached out without my mother orchestrating it. "Tori." His voice was heavy, tired. "Can we talk? Just you and me?" I was driving home from work, the Portland evening traffic crawling around me. I pulled into a parking lot and turned off the engine. "I'm listening." "I owe you an apology." He paused, and I heard him take a shaky breath. "I owe you a lot of apologies, but this one especially." I waited. "I signed that paper in 2012. I typed it up myself. I remember doing it." His voice cracked. "And then I let your mother convince me it didn't matter. That you wouldn't. That you'd just go along with things." "Why, Dad?" The question I'd held for months finally escaped. "Why did you let her do this?" "Because I'm a coward, Tori." The admission hung between us. "Your mother is... she's a lot. She has strong opinions. And somewhere along the way, I learned it was easier to agree with her than to fight, even when she was wrong, even when I knew she was wrong." "That's not a coward, Dad. That's a collaborator." He made a sound that might have been a sob. "You're right. You're absolutely right. I've spent 35 years of marriage taking the easy path, and my daughters paid the price." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll make sure you get your money. I don't know how yet. Your mother is still fighting. But I won't let this end with you getting nothing. Not again." "I need more than promises, Dad." "I know." His voice steadied. "For once in my life, I'm going to do the right thing, even if it costs me." I wanted to believe him. I just didn't know if I could. October 26th. Nathan's office. The conference room felt different than my parents' closing had. Smaller, more intimate, and somehow more final. My parents sat across from me with their attorney, Douglas Peters. Meredith wasn't there. I'd asked that she be excluded. This was between me and the people who'd signed that document. Douglas spoke first. "My clients have authorized me to propose a settlement. They will transfer $720,000 to Ms. Fairfax from the proceeds of the sale, representing her 40% share as specified in the 2012 agreement." I looked at my mother. Her face was a mask, emotionless, controlled. Whatever internal battle she'd fought, it was over. In exchange, Douglas continued, Ms. Fairfax will sign a release waiving any future claims against the property or the remaining proceeds. Nathan glanced at me. We'd discussed this possibility. My client accepts, Nathan said. We'll have the release prepared within 24 hours. The $720,000 should be transferred within 3 business days of the sale closing. My father nodded. My mother didn't move. There's one more thing, I said. Everyone looked at me. I want you both to acknowledge, here, in front of our attorneys, that this money was always mine. That the agreement was valid. That what you tried to do was wrong. My mother's jaw tightened. Tori, I need to hear it. The silence stretched. My father spoke first. You're right. It was yours. We were wrong to try to take it. My mother stared at the table. For a long moment I thought she wouldn't say anything at all. Fine, she finally said. It was yours. Are we done? It wasn't the apology I deserved, but it was more than I'd ever gotten before. We're done, I said, and for the first time in 12 years I believed it. After the meeting ended, my mother caught me in the hallway. Happy now? Her voice was low, bitter. You got your money. You humiliated us in front of everyone. You won. I stopped walking but didn't turn around. This was never about winning, Mom. Really? Because it feels like you were keeping score this whole time, waiting for the perfect moment to cash in. Now I turned. I kept a document, that's all. A document that you and Dad signed, promising me something. For 12 years, I never once brought it up. I never asked for interest. I never complained about the extra money I put in for repairs and taxes. I just trusted that when the time came, you'd do the right thing. And I didn't. Her voice wavered. I know. You don't have to keep saying it. I'm not trying to hurt you, Mom. I'm trying to explain why I had to do this. I took a breath. For 34 years, I've been the daughter who gives, who doesn't complain, who makes everything easier for everyone else. And where did it get me? She didn't answer. I don't want to hate you, I continued. I don't want to lose you. But I can't be your ATM anymore. I can't be the one who sacrifices everything while Meredith takes everything. If we're going to have any kind of relationship going forward, it has to be different. Different how? Equal. Boundaried. I'll still be your daughter, but I won't be your backup plan. My mother's eyes were wet. Real tears this time, I thought. I don't know how to do that, she whispered. I don't know how to be what you're asking. Then maybe it's time to learn, I said. I did. I walked away before she could respond. October 28th. The closing finally happened. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. Nathan represented my interests, and by 11:47 a.m., I received an email confirmation, all documents signed, sale complete, proceeds distributed. October 31st, 3 days later. I was at my desk at Morrison and Caldwell when my phone buzzed with a banking notification. Deposit $720,000. I stared at the number for a long time. $720,000. My grandmother's gift, finally honored. My investment, finally returned. My worth, finally acknowledged. I called Claire. It's done, I said. How do you feel? I thought about it. Not as happy as I expected, not triumphant, just relieved. Like a weight I didn't know I was carrying, finally got lifted. That's what closure feels like, Claire said. It's not fireworks, it's just quiet. That evening, I made a decision. I would use some of the money, $50,000, to create a small scholarship fund in my grandmother's name, the Eleanor Mitchell Foundation for First-Generation College Women. It would help young women like me, the ones who work hard, follow the rules, and sometimes get overlooked anyway. Grandma Eleanor left me that money so I'd have a foundation. Now I could pass that gift forward. I called the Portland Community Foundation the next morning to start the process. The woman on the phone asked why I wanted to create the fund. My grandmother believed in me when no one else did, I said. She wanted me to have a solid start. Now I want to give that to someone else. That's beautiful, Ms. Fairfax. Maybe it was, or maybe it was just the right thing to do. Either way, it felt like something Grandma Eleanor would have approved of. January 2025. 3 months after the closing. My life looked different now, not dramatically, but meaningfully. I still worked at Morrison and Caldwell, but I'd finally asked for the raise I deserved for 2 years. They gave me 15%, plus a bonus for the client retention work I'd done last quarter. Turned out that when you stop accepting less than your worth in one area of your life, you stop accepting it everywhere. I bought a condo in the Alberta Arts District. 2 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, a tiny balcony where I could drink coffee and watch the Portland rain. It was mine, my name on the deed, my space, my future. Most of the money went into investments, index funds, retirement accounts, a small emergency fund. Boring, responsible choices, the kind Grandma Eleanor would have made. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Rachel Brennan, who specialized in family dynamics and boundary setting. Our sessions were hard, digging into 34 years of people-pleasing, of making myself small, of believing that love meant sacrifice. The hardest part, I told her in our 3rd session, is accepting that my family wasn't wrong by accident. They knew what they were doing. They just hoped I'd be too nice to stop them. And how does that make you feel? Angry, sad, free. I paused. Mostly free. She nodded. You're grieving, Tori. Not just the money or the relationship you wish you had. You're grieving the version of yourself who believed things would get better if she just gave enough. That version of me was an idiot. That version of you was a survivor. She did what she had to do. Now you get to do something different. Different sounded good. Different sounded like a beginning. My relationship with my family settled into something new, not healed, not broken, just different. My mother and I talked once a month, short calls, surface level. She never apologized properly, and I stopped expecting her to. But she also stopped asking me for money, stopped comparing me to Meredith, stopped treating me like a resource to be managed. Maybe that was as good as it would get. I was learning to accept that. My father tried harder. He sent me an actual letter, handwritten, 2 pages, apologizing for every time he'd stayed silent when he should have spoken up. It wasn't eloquent, but it was honest. We had dinner together once, just the 2 of us, and he told me he was proud of me. I should have said it more, he admitted over coffee. I should have said it every day. You can start now, I told him. And he did. The surprise was Meredith. In December, she sent me a text. I got a job, part-time, at a dental office. First real job in 8 years. Thought you should know. I wrote back. That's great, Meredith, I mean it. A week later, she sent another. I bought a house, smaller than I wanted, but it's mine. I used my money. My money. Is that stupid to be proud of? It's not stupid at all. She called me on Christmas Eve. We talked for an hour. Really talked, for the first time in years. About the kids, about her new job, about how hard it was to rebuild a life from scratch. I think I was jealous of you, she admitted. You always had it together. I hated that. I didn't have it together. I was just better at hiding. Maybe we're more alike than I thought. Maybe we are. I'm sitting in my new condo as I tell you this story. It's a Tuesday evening. The rain is tapping against the window, and the city lights are glowing through the fog. On my wall, in a simple black frame, is the 2012 agreement. 2 signatures, 1 promise. The piece of paper that changed everything. People ask me sometimes if it was worth it. The stress, the conflict, the months of family tension, if I'd do it again. The answer is yes, every time. Not because of the money, though $720,000 certainly didn't hurt, but because of what the fight taught me. For 34 years, I believed that being a good daughter meant saying yes, meant giving, meant disappearing myself so others could take up more space. I thought if I was patient enough, kind enough, understanding enough, my family would eventually see me, value me, choose me. They didn't. They never would have. Because I taught them not to. The document didn't just save my inheritance, it saved me. It was proof that I had value, that my contributions mattered, that I deserved to be protected, even if I had to be the one doing the protecting. If you're watching this and you're in a similar situation, being taken advantage of by people who should love you, hear me when I say this. Keep records, keep receipts, keep evidence of every agreement, every promise, every contribution. And more importantly, believe that you're worth fighting for. I didn't win because I had $720,000. I won because I finally chose myself. That's the real inheritance my grandmother left me. Not just the money, but the knowledge that I deserve to take up space, to have boundaries, to be seen. And no one, not even family, gets to take that away. From a psychological perspective, Tori's story reflects a dynamic many families struggle with: the scapegoat versus the golden child. When one child is expected to carry burdens while another is protected from consequences, both suffer, just differently. The responsible child learns that love is conditional on performance. The protected child never develops resilience. 3 lessons to take from this. Take. First, loving someone doesn't mean letting them exploit you. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you control. Second, documentation isn't distrust, it's clarity. Even with family, especially with family, put important agreements in writing. Third, sometimes saying no is the most loving thing you can do. It forces people to grow in ways enabling never will. If any of this resonated with you, know that you're not alone. And your rights, financial, emotional, personal, are worth protecting. You deserve to take up space. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. If it meant something to you, if you've been the Tory in your family, hit that like button and subscribe. That's how I know these stories matter. There are more stories like this in the playlist below, in the description. People who stood up, drew lines, and found their way back to themselves. Until next time, take care of yourself, because you deserve it.